And we're on. Perfect. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Great to see everyone. Hope everyone's having a wonderful week so far. Good to see everyone's faces. Miss everyone. Oh, all right. So let's jump into it with your incredibly eventful episode last time. So last session, you guys did your favorite thing in the world, as it seems, which is shopping. Yay! You decided to explore the very adventure-friendly city of Warbury, which sits about a half-day's travel outside of your companion Valerica Indric's country estate. So after having teleported there, having defeated the Lord of Eyes, you guys decided on a much-needed shopping trip. While there, you met a very colorful collection of shopkeepers and other experts. Had a couple of fun run-ins with a variety of people. You arranged for some construction projects for your town that you're looking to start somewhere coming up. You also managed to arrange for some black powder and cannon construction. It's a good thing that you went with the generalist blacksmith, because he knows how to make bells. So that'll help. The other two would have no idea what they're doing. You had a good fun time exploring some of the darker parts of the city as well, including that little weird enchanted magic item shop. Managed to convince a person to give up some of their very hard-won elemental essence cores, so that you could empower one of the weapons that one of you carries. Spent the night at one of the local taverns, terrorized a poor server, and drank what you're pretty sure is actual dragon something, because it caused you to breathe fire, and it was delightful and a lot of fun. And then decided to call it a night. And spend time in the lodgings that are available to Valerica's family in the town hall. So, you all turn in. Where are you guys sleeping? Mansion or in the actual room?
I'm sleeping in the actual room.
Okay.
Valerica, I think everyone else said they were going to sleep in the mansion.
That is correct.
Cool. Sounds good. Sounds good. So, you all fall asleep. And as sleep comes to each of you one by one, the night is quiet, is uneventful, is restful. And when time comes to awake, you find yourselves safely and comfortably in your beds. No strange portents of doom, no dreams, no whispers, no echoes of madness. You guys seem to be pretty good. But the day is yours. Quite a bit on your plates before you head off to Mistros. So, what you doing with your time?
When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to lock the door to our room, and I'm going to hop into the mansion and go find Selima to get Zephyr.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to be basically probably at my rock. My lovely mossy rock.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, you find her easily enough.
I'm outside.
Are you awake?
Yes, I'm awake.
Okay. I'll just wave you down. Kind of twirl the marble between my fingers.
That. Wonderful. Vibration was heard by everyone.
Yeah, I don't want to do this outside of the mansion right now.
I have no idea what that amount of power could actually do.
Can you hand it to me? Okay. I'm going to take Zephyr and go to my office.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good.
I'm gonna follow behind.
Okay, so you guys walk into the office. You find everything exactly where it should be. Plenty of workspace, a couple of magic items that you've been collecting over time in your little hoard.
Tons of components sitting on the shelves.
Books, components, you got a whole stocked little enchanter's, almost not quite a tower, but you've got a nice little room and study. And slowly as you walk in, you can see scrolling all over the place, scrolls, books. Valerica, for as prim and proper neat as she is, has a lot of stuff when it comes to the arcane.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to go over to my desk and I'm going to try to start putting these two items together.
Okay. So as you pull out your core,
mm-hmm.
your air elemental core, and you got Zephyr, and as you kind of bring them together, they both begin to kind of vibrate and hum slightly. And both of you, because you're both in the room, right?
Yeah.
You both get that same, like in the tavern, when they started vibrating, that same kind of buzzing feeling, like that hits your teeth, that little corner of your jaw, your ears, kind of ring for a second and then go kind of quiet. Really disconcerting. And it steadies out, thankfully. It remains. It doesn't get more intense, but as you place the core near the bow, you finally make contact and doesn't seem to do anything. There's no space to put it necessarily. It doesn't look like it's being absorbed or anything.
So, but has the sound stopped?
Not with contact, no. It's still there. It's still they're reacting. They're just not doing anything yet.
Can I roll an Arcana check to see if Valerica would know what's going on?
Sure, absolutely.
Alrighty. First roll of the night. And that's a nat 1. This is going just like the rest of my week, guys!
Okay, so for a total of?
8.
8? You know spells well.
Yep.
You know kind of learned or innate magic, but the crafting of magical items is not something you've spent a lot of time dedicated to yet. It's something that you've wanted to touch on, wanted to explore more of, but the intricacies and nuances of how this works, you're not familiar with, like, why this is.
Okay. I'm gonna conjure my mage hand and just have it grab the core and move it away from the bow so the sound stops.
Okay.
Selima, can you go get Thurgle, please?
Sure.
This is more his purview than mine.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea. This is way beyond my scope. Alright, so I'm gonna step out and peek at the kitchen while I'm on my way to the rooms to see if I know where Thurgle is.
Okay. I mean, you know Thurgle's room well enough. Thurgle, are you awake? What you doing?
At this point, I probably would have naturally woken from whenever sunrise usually happens. Of course, biological clock helps with that.
Sure, yeah. You're pretty used to waking on a schedule, yeah. Makes sense.
So I would be up meditating, probably with Ares either on my shoulder or on his perch that I made him.
Okay. Sounds good, So, Selima, you find him?
I'm gonna knock on the door and say, Thurgle, are you up?
Please come in.
Okay. Open the door. Nice to see you're awake.
Good morning.
Morning, Thurgle. We have a small issue that you might be better off with than what Valerica and I can do in the office with my bow.
Ah, yes. When we attempted that first in the tavern last night, correct?
We're trying it again, and nothing seems to be happening.
All right, I will see what I can do. Show me the way. I do still get a little lost in here.
Absolutely. We're gonna.
Okay, sounds good. So?
As she's out of the room, I'm gonna pull out my sending stone that's attuned with my mom, and briefly tell her about the plan to bind the mansion to this plane, the architect meeting. Well, she knew about that. So the architect meeting and the cost, and see if she's interested in financing it.
Okay. So what does that message sound like? It's using the sending stone, right? So you got your 25 words.
25 words.
All right. How's it sound?
Good morning. Met with the architect. 4 buildings. 80,000 gold.
Okay.
Are you interested in financing this if you choose the final location? Love you.
Okay. A moment passes. Good morning. Let's talk more about this. I think we can find a good arrangement. Love you too.
She doesn't even use all the words.
Didn't need to.
Fine. Okay. I'm assuming they're back by now.
Oh yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You have more experience in crafted magical items than I do.
Only slightly.
I would ask your expertise. Because the whistling sound happens, and I'm going to pull the mage hand closer to the bow.
Oh yeah, and it hits you immediately.
But nothing beyond this.
How loud is that whistling sound? I'm wondering if it would wake me up.
Oh, you don't hear anything?
Okay.
Yeah, nothing for you.
That does seem very unique.
Move it back away again. Any thoughts?
How much do you know of your bow, Salima?
Very little. I know it has a name. I know it's fantastically old. I know it's slumbering. There's not too much I know of Zephyr, honestly. Even his name and research didn't come up with pretty much anything when we had the brief opportunity.
That is fair. May I see Zephyr? Thank you. I'm going to take this time to really examine it, look at its intricacies, maybe see if there's something that I may be able to know about it offhand, or maybe in something that I've read.
Okay. Go ahead and make an Arcana check. And if you're not proficient with Arcana, you can add your proficiency modifier because you are familiar with like smithing and crafting.
Perfect. So would I add my Arcana into my proficiency?
Are you proficient in Arcana?
I got a +1.
He's not proficient in Arcana.
Oh, okay, yeah. So your proficiency modifier, your Arcana, and then whatever you roll.
Okay.
Oh, he does
Natural
roll on
20.
20.
So altogether,
Nice.
25.
Very nice.
25. Okay. Looking over, boyering and fletching and that kind of crafting is not something you've done a lot of. You've mostly worked with, metals and things. But you understand the principles. Like, you've had to work with craftsmen from all types of backgrounds and all professions. And you've kind of played your hand at a little bit of it. It's a strange construction. There are elements that look very similar to some of the things that you've made, in that they seem to just have been popped into existence the way that certain elements fit together. They're not carved or whittled in a way that you would expect tools to have made them. They're too clean, too perfect. There's too few kind of marks. There's no mark of craftsmanship. Like, you can't see the hand of the maker. You can't see the flow of any of the tools that would be made to use this object. You're not even entirely sure what material it is. It looks like a bizarre amalgamation of wood and metal. Almost as though metal grew into this shape instead of being formed into it. And even the string on the bow, having dealt with monsters and their components in the past, looks very similar to almost any kind of sinew-based or gut-based string that you've seen, but it's clean and perfect. There's no warping, there's no bubbling, there's none of the things that you might see in any kind of construction. You get the sense that, as with most objects that need to be kind of forged with magical properties, those magical properties often need to be made either by carving them in and imbuing them through the use of essentially like a pseudo spell casting process, or they need to be folded in at the point of creation. So that's where people like you or some of the other craftsmen that you've worked with come in, where they'll fold magic into the object as it's being made, rather than kind of after the fact. Since you have no idea how to forge something like this, you might need to remake it. And you're pretty sure that were you to take the component that you have and the bow, you could probably make it work with your divine influence.
And I'm going to explain all of this to both of them with my admiration of the craftsmanship, the fact that it does not look like it was made by hand, but by influence of some magic or divinity in that aspect.
Would I, with my nature, know anything about the wood?
Roll a nature check.
That is a 19.
19? There are many hardwoods that exist. Many very dense, very hard, very, in a lot of ways, almost stone-like woods that can occasionally be found in areas where plants have been imbued due to various sources or reasons. You know, like a magic storm blows through the area and it hits a tree, and you know the tree is suddenly stone, or is made into a magical substance that can then be harvested and turned into a magic item. The idea of growing a metal into shape, or a metal that acts like wood on its own, doesn't sound familiar. Doesn't sound like anything that you've seen or heard of, even in folklore that you've come across. And there's usually a folk story for everything of some kind. I mean, the limits of imagination for a lot of the villagers that you've come across are, as far as you can tell, there are no limits. They come up with the craziest ideas. And the most convoluted explanations for things that you know now are far less complicated than they actually are. But no folklore, history, no encounters that you've had that speak to essentially growing weapons on trees. Not like this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So there is a possibility that I may be able to merge the two together, but it will essentially have to completely reconstruct your bow. So I am not sure that it will be the same Zephyr that you have been carrying the entire time. So with permission, I would do this, but I cannot guarantee it will be the same, since obviously we are introducing this completely new element.
Is it an element you recognize at all with this bow?
I would have to, I mean, the bow itself is such beautiful craftsmanship. This is similar to things that I have seen, but I'm not very adept to most ranged weapons. I do make mostly close combat or melee, or I make the tips to the arrows, not as much as the bow itself. When it comes to that material, may I see the object we would like to add?
Bring it over with the mage hand.
Okay. Yeah, bring it over. And it begins to buzz, as it usually does.
I'm gonna try to get Zephyr away from it so it doesn't buzz as intensely.
Okay, sounds good.
Are we able to touch it without problem?
Yeah.
Yes. It's quite cold.
It's a little
So
chilly.
I'm gonna grab it and examine it.
Okay. Go ahead and make an investigation check. See what details you can pull out.
+1. 11.
11? Okay. Looking at it, it looks like any kind of rough cut gem. It doesn't have like the precise facets of like a jewel maker, but it has this strange kind of swirl of almost spiral-like concentric circles that go around it. It's this kind of mottled white and gray material. It looks a little crystalline. Looks almost like a gem in some ways. But it's very kind of cool to the touch. It's weirdly dry as well. Like you kind of feel it, and it's like, for as cold as it is, you would expect there to be like that feeling of condensation kind of around it. But even like your touch feels dry, like the texture around your fingers kind of be a little bit. It's not altogether unpleasant. It's not a bad feeling by any means, but it's certainly unusual. You recall seeing objects similar to this in a few of the projects that you had worked on in your forges back home. Hard to come by, expensive, very uncommon because the applications aren't. But objects like this can be used to create anything that would be attuned or associated with air or movement or flight. You worked with you remember kind of working with a crafter of kind of odd magical items, and at one point they used this to create a broom of flying, where they essentially had broken this object down and then imbued it into the broom as they were kind of carving and shaping it, and that granted it flight. As to any of the other kind of deeper intricacies or how it relates to the bow, you're not entirely sure.
And I'm going to mention that to them. I remember working with someone at some point where we had something similar to this, that they had ground down to a powder and included it into a broom to make it fly. So it's interesting process. So we can add it to Zephyr, but I'm not 100% sure what the properties will actually imbue into that item itself. It is complicated. It is possible, but it is very complicated.
In the research that I had done, I was able to identify that Zephyr would be awakened by this element. Now, what that awakened state looks like, I'm not sure. So,
And in your research, did it say anything about any of the process of the awakening? If it needs to be ground, if it needs to be powderized, like anything in that reference?
I don't know, GM.
No process that you found powder in this.
Because I didn't really get a lot of clarity about what my character found in the research, other than these were some components, but there wasn't any like, oh, you found this in a book of weapons. So can I get a little bit more insight there?
Sure. So when you had spent some time doing some research in the library in Korensburg, you came across a couple of books with a few references to powerful magical relics that came out of the dynasty. And kind of piecing together some of the fragmented elements of what you found. You figured, based on the knowledge that you do have of spellcasting and magic, of some of the references that you were given to kind of crafting of magical items, and then what you had learned through identifying this magic item, you made a strong inference as to how to strengthen it, but you found no information on how that process actually works. You do note, is you're a scholar, so you would find the absence of evidence to be quite startling. There was surprisingly little on the process of creating such things. Whether these records had been lost during the collapse or had been intentionally suppressed, you're not sure. But there was surprisingly little, not even references to how to make it happen. But knowing what you know and knowing what Thurgle knows, could follow kind of standard enchanting procedures if you find somebody who's good at it and knows what they're doing. You can attempt to use more kind of divinely inspired methods of warping materials. But you do recall that the details were bizarrely scant.
Okay. Did I find it in like a book of weapons from the dynasty, or
you found
nothing, I mean, there was some context, right?
You found nothing specifically about this item. Almost everything you know about this item specifically, Zephyr, you found through your identification spells, through identifying it. However, you did find reference to other items, mostly unnamed and uncategorized, as just being incredibly powerful magical items and relics from the time of the day, but no specific references. Just that they existed and that they could be empowered by a variety of means, including finding incredibly dangerous or powerful or expensive components, imbuing them with another kind of injection of magic. And you found references to this in, say, maybe 3 or 4 different kind of books and tomes that you had found. One, a history of the dynasty from what you understand, what you know of the dynasty. One on kind of a treatise on diving through ruins and trying to find such things. And one on kind of discussing what was lost when the dynasty collapsed and everything was kind of thrown into chaos for a few hundred years, and how much of their processes and how much of their history was kind of just how much of it vanished with the loss of their kind of leadership and then the chaos that ensued afterwards, and how there's a lot of these things that are still kind of being unearthed, still being relearned, and still being uncovered.
Okay.
I will say that this prospect for Valerica would probably be fairly exciting, because this is rediscovering lost knowledge. This is something that not a lot of people know how to do, and this could be like a new kind of frontier of understanding.
My inclination is that these two items have to be melded together by magical means. Now, we have several spells at our disposal. I have an idea, and it's going to be the lightest thing that we can try. And I'm not confident that it will work, but I am curious. Thurgle, may I? So I'm going to take Zephyr, and I'm going to take the orb, and I'm actually going to put them on top of each other and cast Mending over them.
Interesting. Okay.
To try to actually push them together, because if it's a piece of the whole, or if it's a piece that is missing from the whole, it will repair itself.
Understood. Good inference. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So as you take the core, you take the bow, you channel and focus that restorative and reparative magic. You feel both the bow and the core, where it was once kind of discordant harmonies of this vibration, there's this stillness, and they almost unite in their sounds. As the spell ends, it returns to that discordant kind of note between the two of them. They're still reacting to one another, but the infusion of some form of a magic, transmutative as it is, seemed to be desirable for both objects.
Alright, Thurgle. I think it's on you then.
It keeps making a sound.
Did you hear the sound pitch when I was casting it? This needs to be magically fused for them to blend. And that is a very low level of magic. That is my lowest level of magic that I just cast. I think we need to do something more powerful.
Yeah,
like a fabrication or a fusion.
Yeah, and Valerki, you can infer that, I mean, there are certainly limits to mending, for sure, like just as a level of spell, but you're probably on the right track as far as the thinking goes.
So, with your permission, Salima.
I have no problem. This is far beyond what I understand. I can barely identify the fact that it's still a bow. I don't know the material. I don't know what half of it's made of, and it has a name. I don't know much else other than the fact that when you bring the two objects together, it's making a sound.
Have at it.
All right. Essentially, which would you prefer? I have the ability to attempt a fabricate. It is one of my spells, or I can attempt to utilize my blessing, the artisan's blessing, to attempt to fuse them together that way.
Try the artisan's blessing first.
All right.
Which one is stronger?
Tomato, potato.
Okay.
One uses spell slot, one takes an hour.
Let's use the spell slot, just for time's sake at this point. And I'm going to wave to Sebastian to bring us some food.
All right.
Or to start preparing some food.
Starts walking off.
All right. So, let me find it. Seriously, where am I? Okay. My fabricate spell. There it is. Right? For me, it's actually a 4th level to find it, and it's just not there in any other level.
Oh, weird.
But I can cast it at 6th level. So this spell says I can convert raw materials into products of the same material. For example, I can fabricate wooden bridge from a clump of trees, rope patch, hemp, and clothes from flax or wool.
Mm-hmm.
Choose raw materials that you can see within range. You can fabricate a large or smaller object contained within 10-foot cube or heightened to 5-foot cubes. Given sufficient quantity of raw material, if you are working with metal, stone, or another mineral substance, however, the fabricated object can be no larger than medium, contained in the 5-foot cube. The quality of objects made by the spell is commensurated with the quality of the raw materials. Creatures or magic items can't be created or transmuted by the spell. You also can't use it to create items that ordinarily require a high degree of craftsmanship, such as jewelry, weapons, glass, or armor, unless you have proficiency with that type of artisan's tools used to craft such objects.
Okay.
So with this, would I be able to cast that spell?
So with your knowledge of the spell, probably not, because it's a magic item. So it would not be able to be transmuted. So you're probably looking at your artisan's blessing of some kind.
And as Thurgle, I would know this.
You would infer this as you're kind of reviewing what you know. You'd figure it out for sure. You're a competent craftsman.
All right, so it does seem that I might not be able to use one of the spells that we were initially thinking, so please feel free to sit back, relax, because this is going to take a minute.
Right. Let's go out in the front then. And grab something to eat while this is happening.
All right. I will get to work and make sure I get some fish.
By this point, Liv is finally stumbling out of bed.
Okay.
Making her usual breakfast round.
All right. You see Sebastian busy preparing some food in the kitchen. Seems to be preparing for whatever reason to be bringing it out on a tray.
I'm going to follow the tray.
Okay. All right. After a few minutes, you see kind of he prepares the food, takes it as Valerka, Selima, and Selima are walking out of the kind of the study room. And you all see Liv and Sebastian carrying a tray of food, and then kind of stop as he sees you, and then just stands there for a sec, not sure what to do.
I'm just gonna pick a few things off and then tell him to go take the rest to Thurgle.
Okay. All right. He walks in and just kind of stands there watching Thurgle. So, Thurgle, are you channeling divinity?
That is correct.
All right. So.
And in the channel divinity, I'm going to attempt to merge them naturally. I'm not going to force anything different. I'm going to see how they may best fit together as their true forms.
Okay, sounds good. As you begin the process, the core and the bow next to each other, you focus in, you utter your small prayer, thought to your deity. Begin the ritual of channeling that great divine gift that you've been given. Immediately, the air around takes on a natural heat. The air becomes thick, dense. It smells of burning metal, of coals. For you, it is nothing but a comfort. As you continue focusing, you feel the tendrils of magical divine energy reach out from your hands, wrap themselves around the weapon and the component. And you feel your mind leave the space that you're in. Find yourself in an empty void. Naught but anvil, hammer, and a forge before you. And for the next hour, you feel guided, not of your own action, volition, or knowledge. Your hands moving as though some force that knows so much more than you guides them with every move. You feel the curve of the bow, the tightness of the string. You feel the cool touch of the elemental core. You hear at first the discordant sound of buzzing and humming that turns to an uncoordinated strike of metal on metal, the sound that novice smiths make when they're first learning to strike. Eventually, though, as the two objects grow closer, not physically, but become tethered together on some both deep and expansive magical level, that ping, 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 becomes a ting, 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 and you get this rhythm of experience and expertise, that sound of mastercraft at work. Those of you outside hear this process. You can smell coming from the other room that soft scent of burning heat. The air itself seems to become warm and slightly dry. It's not as intense as being in an actual forge, but it's there. If you guys have any reaction, now's the time.
I say, having spent several months alone with Thurgle on another plane of existence, I'm assuming I've seen him do this before and heard him do this before. I'm going to start out in the hallway, like playing his favorite like sea shanties and stuff as background music to what he's working on.
Okay. Sounds good. Go ahead and make a performance check for me.
Holy shit. So I have a plus 12 in performance, and I just rolled a 19.
Nice.
So that's a 31.
Okay. So for those of you sitting in the front room enjoying your breakfast, it's a lovely series of jaunty, happy tunes that you can't quite help but, start kind of tapping your foot to and feeling your body's kind of moving in time with it a little bit. It's quite a delightful little performance. All three of you have seen him channel this magic before. You've experienced this. This takes on a bit of a different note than usual. The magic feels as though it extends further. It's usually so centered around him that you have to be right next to him to get a sense of it. But this seems to just be drawn out, carried on some invisible current. The intensity of the magic that he's working with seems to be kind of bleeding out a little bit of the world around. Not cause for concern, it just seems to have kind of expanded out a little. So even sitting...
Is it changing things around, or is it just everything is as it is?
Everything's exactly... Yeah, you guys are sitting outside, you just kind of feel it. You got almost like that, like little hairs kind of standing up, like you've just got a sense that things are going. Like you can almost feel like there's a draft. Like there's no wind in the mansion. Like there's no airflow to speak of. But you feel suddenly like the currents of air moving. Thurgle, you hear very familiar kind of sounds of music in the background. And you recall working on the forge ships as shanties are sung. That wonderful kind of combination of very precise rhythmic music designed to improve workflow and coordination between large groups of people. And you find the sound of these objects beating into step with the music as well. And for those of you outside, you can faintly hear the sound of what sounds like a hammer on metal, as though he's forging. It's echoey and far, far away. Entirely too distant for it to be in. But you can feel like you're hearing it. Not sure, but you feel like you hear it.
Is Freckles having any visible reaction to what's going on?
Kind of looks around a little curiously, wondering what's happening. You kind of see, kind of getting a sense that because there's magic happening, it's attuned a little bit to, the kind of magical currents of things, but no adverse effects or anything, and no like fear or startle. Just like, huh, the wind's changed, kind of. Yeah, very much like an animal would be aware of the surrounding like environment. This creature is aware of the magical currents that are currently flowing through the area. Thurgle, you're not sure exactly at what point the core vanished from your sight, but as you're working this object, you realize that the component is gone. No longer there, and the humming has all but ceased. And as your spell dies down, you exit that space that you were in. Blink your eyes, you find yourself surrounded by the familiar room of the Valerica's office space. And you see the bow before you. First glance doesn't seem to look any different. You kind of look at it, figuring out, well, there's a moment where you think that it was for nothing. And then you notice that the arms of the bow, each of them where they were at one point slender and smooth, now have those same concentric spiral rings looping around from the middle all the way on both sides. They've taken on what appears to be that outside appearance of the element you had provided it. But the hour is done, and the bow appears to be finished.
I'm going to thank Hephaestus for his assistance in guiding me. Pick up Zephyr and exit the office, and go to Selima.
All right, Selima, you see Thurgle come out holding your bow. He looks a little like he's been through it. Like he looks like he's been working hard. A little kind of sweat. You swear that you see soot somewhere on his face before it kind of just vanishes. Like he looks like he's been working.
Do you need a moment? Sit.
Please.
Before you do, may I identify it? Just to make sure you're not attuning to anything now wrong that has been awoken in this.
So I will
like
say...
the eyeball?
I will say, Valerica.
Like the eyeball.
I'm sorry, Selima. I'll say, you never lost attunement. You never felt that connection leave during this process.
I'm gonna relay that to Valerica.
Interesting. Do you have a problem with me identifying it?
No, absolutely not. I'm just letting you know I never felt a disconnect despite all the forge work that obviously was coming out of the office. There was no disconnect, no nothing.
It was divine, was it not?
Truly. Sebastian
Liv chuckles and misses a lyric in the song.
So, Thurgle, one of the things you do notice is that just standing there with food that is now long cold and is slightly dried out is one of the automatons in your mansion that's just patiently waiting for you to take food, and then as you go out, it's following behind you, just waiting there for you to do something.
Oh, shit.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You take the bow, and it feels quite a bit heavier for the briefest moment, and then it feels weirdly light. Like it's strange. Like it felt like this kind of sudden weight happened, and then it's just like you feel like you could throw this thing hundreds of feet. It's so light. Just...
Okay. I am going to cast Identify.
Okay. You are going to cast Identify. Excellent, excellent. So, With identify, you learn this is Zephyr. Empowered. The wielder gains a +2 bonus to attack and damage.
Woohoo!
When the wielder hits with an attack using this weapon, the target will take an additional 1d6 force damage. As with the previous incarnation of this item, when you kill a creature with an attack from this weapon, you may use a bonus action to immediately make another attack against a different creature that you can see. And a new element aspect comes to your mind. Once per day, the wielder may cast the spell Whirlwind.
Well, it's certainly more powerful.
And, moreover, there's more.
And it's not done. Marika kind of like puts her hands on her face. Okay.
Wait, what do you mean not done?
It's not awake.
What?
It is empowered. And I'm going to slide it over to her. But it should serve you better than it was before.
After identifying this object, it's very similar in its degree of like proportional kind of strength to what you found with the. Seems to be kind of a similar stage of development.
Awakened, this is empowered. Is that not the same thing?
Same thing. My mistake with the language.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not done.
I'm confused that it's not done.
It's safe, though, if you'd like to use it.
Absolutely.
Do you take it back into your hands?
Yes.
Okay. So being attuned to it, you also become aware of these attributes almost innately. For those of you guys have all kind of dealt with magical items. And I'm sure some of you have attuned to things without knowing what they are. You know that once you attune to a magical item, you do become aware of most of their properties unless they've been deliberately hidden. Like curses and things, like you don't necessarily become aware that it's a cursed item. But this item, Salima, you become aware of the fact that you feel more accurate, like it'll pack a bigger punch. You can feel magic kind of flowing in and around it. It's just as swift as ever, and you do feel the presence of a spell.
And I recognize the spell, particularly?
You know
because
of
I'm
it.
attuned?
Yeah. Yeah, because you're attuned, you become aware of what the spell is. Yeah, and what it can do. So, if you would like, you can go ahead and add the item to your...
Absolutely. Does it change the existing item, or is it a whole new item?
It's a whole new item right now.
Okay. I will add that in. I'm
Zephyr
going to...
Reborn.
Zephyr Reborn. Oh, no. I'm going to turn to Thurgle and say, I appreciate all your hard work. Honestly and truly. We all could feel it. And we've all witnessed Hephaestus and his divine inspiration with you. But that was truly incredible. The whole house felt it.
As I felt the assistance from Hephaestus, I also felt the encouragement from you all. So it sort of was, I feel, a group effort. Hephaestus empowers me for the capabilities, but you empower me for the encouragement. So I appreciate your assistance in this as well.
It's a truly magical talent. I'll give you that. It's truly incredible.
Well, if you ever want to learn more about Hephaestus, I am here.
You never do give up, do you?
I'm sorry, he is a very empowering person. I must share his love.
Maybe talk for another day. I've with clerics and their arguments that last several days of whose god was better.
That is the difference. My god is not better. He just provides you with what you need.
I can see that. Very much so. Talk for another day.
Precisely.
You're muted.
But I do think I need to pay a stop to the alchemist and the blacksmith and see if they received my notes and have an update for me.
Sounds good.
Do you mind if I tag along?
Oh, please, of course.
What's up, Valerica?
I need to go address the cost of our plan with my family and see if that's something they're interested in financing. Unless any of you feel like throwing down for it.
So I don't have enough to cover that much of it. But I don't mind helping at all.
I can help. I can at least provide 10,000 gold myself if needed.
I have about 600. I'm just shy of 700 gold, so I don't think that drop in the bucket will cause too many ripples outside of what we need.
I could drop 5,000, but I'd like to leave a little bit of cushion room because we have had emergencies in the past.
We have, indeed. If my family does finance this, they're going to lay some ownership claim to it.
Well, I've never had a problem living in spaces that your family has owned. It always comes with some beautiful benefits.
I'm going to pull out the Indrix symbol, place it on my plate armor. That does not bother me at all.
All right.
Does it bother you, Valerica?
No, I just know that everything comes at a price. So I'm curious as to what the price is here in this negotiation.
Such is life.
Indeed. I am going to use the teleportation circle to go back to Shadowfen. So that way we don't have to ride back and forth all the time. Since you guys are going to be staying here, we may as well use the residence that I have in the material plane here. Just leave the box in the room.
When you see your family, please ask your mother about news from the islands.
I might bring her back, actually. Depending on how this negotiation goes. But that's my plan for the day. Do remember to pick up any magical components that you need before we do head out. I'm still trying to get us out of here as soon as possible.
Hopefully we'll be able to. I do know that I have some requests in that may take a few days, and that roll is not intentional. Disregard. I'm rolling for persuasion.
Got it.
So essentially, as soon as we have the opportunity to, I would like to get to the islands, but with the production of the items I requested, we may have to provide them with a delivery location so that we can get them to us as quickly as possible.
These modifications that we're considering making may not be the most timely thing given the need to travel quickly right now.
Yes, I'm referring to the cannons and the black powder.
Right. Those are likely going to need to be teleported inside this mansion. I'm thinking that instead of binding the mansion here before we leave... I don't know. This is getting very complicated. I'm going to go have this conversation.
Yes. You get that, and I will figure out the time frame, and we will burn that bridge when we get to it.
Okay.
Sounds good. Salima, what's your plan?
Other than just utter awe and confusion, I don't have too much that I need to do other than getting some very basic component for a new spell.
We do have a target in here if you wish to practice on. Well, technically it's out there. I have one enchanted target set up in the field. I haven't been able to set up a proper battleground yet, but if you want to go fuss with it, by all means.
Or if you would like to join us, we are going by a few other blacksmiths as well, and the alchemist that may be able to provide some materials that you may need.
I may actually be able to find this material at the stables.
Even better.
There's stables around the corner here.
Mm-hmm. I'll go see if Midnight doesn't mind a few pieces missing from his meal.
I'm sure he'll understand. Speaking of, live in Thurgle. You might want to consider getting mounts while we're here.
Oh yeah, Zeus is no more.
Ooh.
As I say, and Archie's all the way back in Corinsburg, so that's not exactly helpful.
Right. If you really want Archie, you can teleport there.
Fair point. I have missed the whole thing.
It will roughly cost you 200 gold, and I recommend that's one of the components you pick up.
I'll look around too, see what is available in the area since we're already here, but...
Sounds good. And I'm going to be off. I'm going to go use the teleportation circle in here to go back to Shadowfen.
Okay, so you're going to draw your teleportation circle out?
No, I'm using the teleportation circle in the house. I'm not using spell slot for it.
Okay, got it. Right. Got it. Okay. So, yeah, you have no problem getting back. It's pretty quick.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and you are very quickly back in your home. Your estate. Very familiar. Guards kind of take a sec, and realize it's you. They're quick. They're attentive. Not the same guard as last time that freaked out. But you're familiar now with the morning kind of shift of guards. They seem to have just changed, so they're bright and fresh and alert.
Is Mother in?
Yes, Countess, she is.
Wonderful. Where is she right now?
I'm not entirely certain. Maybe check her at this hour, check her office or the dining hall.
I'm gonna go check her office.
Okay. You find her in her office. As you approach, hear the sound of voices.
Do I recognize the voices?
You recognize your mother's voice. You do not recognize the man's voice. And it is muffled very heavily. Can't quite make out what the words are from here.
I'm gonna try to get closer and just listen in.
Go ahead and make a perception check.
Can I have Sparks out with me to help?
I mean, you're the one listening, he's not.
Okay. Ooh, finally rolled well. Perception or investigation?
Perception.
21.
21? Okay. You kind of strain to kind of hear what's happening, and it sounds cordial. It sounds polite. Doesn't sound heated or argumentative at all. As you kind of press your ear closer to hear, it's still really hard to make out any words. You can guess that one or both of them has kind of created some form of mumbling to avoid being overheard. As you kind of approach, you hear from the other side of the door, and it swings open.
So I wasn't able to make out anything with a 21?
No words. Nothing. It swings open, and you see your mother sitting at her desk. She beckons you forward. You kind of look, and you're like, there was nothing there that made those footfalls. And you see in the room, standing, kind of hands behind his back, very straight, upright, a bizarrely youthful kind of young man.
What race?
Appears to be human. He's got kind of short, kind of coiffed on the top hair, kind of very kind of cut down, almost shaved, very tight shorn kind of lower section of hair. Heavy that he wears. Very, very fine cloth. Almost.
Do I recognize the robes or the color?
They are a. Let me pull it up. The robes are kind of a greenish brown. You can see the undershirt. He kind of turns half, kind of look at you. You get a little bit of a better look, but this kind of greenish brown. You can see that one portion of the robes is this whitish, almost cream color, and the other part fastened with a brooch is kind of a greenish color. It doesn't look like the robes of any particular order or group that you've seen. It itself does not look particularly like uniform. You can see he's got this kind of large tome, kind of buckled and belted with these kind of ornate straps to his one side. You can see hanging bottles and pouches. He's got this kind of like light facial hair. As he turns to look at you, and your mother just kind of gives you this look of enter, but being quiet for a moment.
I'm gonna kind of nod my head in acknowledgement at both of them, and enter the room and close the door behind me.
As you do so, he speaks very casually, almost startlingly so. Most people don't speak casually. Your companions. But he looks at her and he says, "Well, are you sure?" Mother says, "I've quite made up my mind, but I'll consider what you say." He looks back, gives you a bright smile. Says, "Ah, you must be the Countess Valeric."
I am indeed.
"Wonderful to meet. I was hoping I'd run into you. But it seems I ran into your mother, and I must be off. I hate to run away.
I'm sorry,
like
I
this."
didn't catch your name. You are?
I know you didn't. He shakes your hand. As your mother will explain absolutely everything. Go ahead and make a perception check.
I can't use the 21 that did nothing for me?
I'll take it into consideration. Since you're staying alert, for sure.
14.
14? Okay. You immediately notice the symbol on his chest as he's kind of shaking your hand and dodging the question of who he is. You see a series of of spirals, 5, kind of around each other. Hard to focus on for a moment. It's strange. It's uncomfortable. It kind of draws your attention in for the briefest moment. You kind of clear your head and almost for the moment forgot that you asked a question, but you know that sign and that symbol. As well,
Yes, I do.
As well. I hope that I get to see you again. I look forward to learning of your other future exploits. Well done indeed, Ingaravia. So, Countess, Baroness, wonderful to see both of you. And
We'll be seeing each other again.
And he teleports out. Just vanished. You see your mother just...
I didn't know you were in talks with any members of the League.
I'm not. Almost by design. Been hounding me for years.
That begs to... I mean, clearly, they know where you are. They have access to you. You allowed them inside your office.
Well, I do hear what they have to say, but... they constantly want me to join. I have quite enough to deal with here. I don't need to be dealing with their nonsense. So, What can I do for you, darling?
Do I sense that she's kind of dodging any questions about the League?
Roll an insight check.
12.
12? You know your mother fairly well. Roll with advantage.
21.
Okay, there we go, better. She's not dodging questions necessarily. You've seen her dodge questions. She's very deft at it. She's just giving you the space to speak first. Before she brings up anything. She knows that you came here for a purpose. And she's just kind of opening the floor for you to talk first, instead of immediately hitting you with whatever she has to say.
Right. I'm not letting that go. I came to follow up with you about the request that I sent via the stone earlier this morning.
Ah, yes. Yes.
Is this something that you're interested in getting involved in?
Well, it's funny and rather serendipitous that you should ask, because honestly that is part of what they wanted.
They want my mansion.
Well, of course, but they're not going to take it from you. It's yours, and they're not thieves. But no, they're more interested in what you can do with the mansion.
What do they want?
Well,
how do they know about it?
Well,
you told them?
I told them nothing. They knew of it the same way that they know of your exploits. Kind of repeats the tone in Gravia.
They seem to be pleased with it.
They are quite pleased with it, and goodness knows why, but the point is they have their eyes on you.
Good.
And not much escapes the League's notice. They don't spend much time in the world, but when they do, they tend to pay attention. No. Sit. It's a proposition
Take a defiant seat.
It's a proposition of
Spark on my shoulder.
And you're free to say no. But it does somewhat pertain to you and your designs for this puzzle box that you have. She kind of glances down at this kind of small chest. Almost comical. Like, it's a chest. It's just tiny. Like, maybe like anything. But it looks like a fully formed, like, little planks and everything. Like, somebody took the time to take a chest and miniaturize it or something. Go ahead and take a look.
Reach for the chest and take it.
Okay. It's weighty. As you...
I'm gonna open it up.
Okay. As you open it, you see this kind of lovely, like, silk, almost, like, cushiony space. You've seen gems presented this way. And what you see inside looks like a almost perfectly clear glass marble. If you didn't know to be looking for something, it might have escaped you. It's so clear and free of impurities and scratches. Anything that would indicate that it's there. It almost looks two-dimensional. But it sits there. And you can feel this slight rum up from it.
Does it look anything like the elemental core that I just handled?
Not quite. Similar, but lacking any form of distinction. Like
So
any
just clear.
thing, just kind of clear and empty. Do you know what that is?
I'm gonna cast Identify on it.
Okay. How long does Identify take?
I will in a minute.
Okay. She kind of sits back and just lets it happen.
I'm just casting it from the ring.
Okay. Make a wisdom saving throw for me, please.
16.
16? Okay. Your mind is flooded with feels like memories, visions. It feels like you're there, just endless hallways, rooms, fires, chests, creatures of all sorts, traps, doors, wards, sigils.
Like wood, stone?
Stone and wood and plant and earth. You see perfectly carved and shaped spaces. You see open, cavernous, gaps in the emptiness. Stalactites and stalactites. You see running water. You see flows of lava. You see and feel the sweeps of wind and air. It is incredibly overwhelming. You find yourself, after your spell is cast, you find yourself like gasping for air, like you've been submerged for a long time. You feel like you got a bit of a headache. Quite an experience, isn't
it? Did I get any information of what it is? I mean, I cast the identify spell.
Yeah, you did. You know the answer, but you don't believe it. This is a dungeon. It's alive.
Doesn't make any sense.
Well, now that the League has its eye on you, I suppose it's important that you learn some of the things that they deal with. You know those deep parts of the world, or those the high up ones, essentially the ones where the people that we train and cultivate are sent off to find fortune and become bigger and better, find all manner of wonderful things and face down life and death itself.
Yes.
Most of what we send them to are ruins or caves, natural formations, or parts of the Underdark that have just opened up. Natural or man-made creations, old and filled with native beings. There are, however, a few locations, I'm sure you've no doubt heard of, stories, books, studies, that no matter how many times an adventuring party enters and clears them, they're always reborn, always fresh and new, and supply an endless flow of creatures and objects. They are closely guarded secrets, mostly relegated to myth and rumor, but there are few that exist in the world. And this one's a baby.
It's an entity.
Of sorts.
This is an organism that has recently gained life.
Not quite yet. It needs a home and a nest and a place to grow.
To grow inside the mansion?
No, goodness, no. That would be ridiculous. What would be the point of that? No. You want to settle a town. You might want to settle a town around something that people are going to flock to.
Need to sustain itself.
Life. No two ways about it. It needs life.
So it needs to feed on the living.
It will feed on whatever it can, as long as that is living. It will feed on plants and animals, people.
Okay. What is your plan? You're being very vague.
I'm not entirely sure what I want. Knowing the League, they're trying to bribe their way in, having me join them again.
Why was this given to you? Who are you to the League?
I'm someone who's turned them down every single time they've asked me to join them.
Why?
Because I live here, I have a family, and I don't want to leave. They're almost never around. They go traipsing off to the Roiling Mass, and then they're almost never seen again. You ever wonder why people like me aren't more plentiful? Yes, they are, by choice. They don't have to. They choose to leave the world behind and go explore. I choose to stay, and they don't like it when people who are incredibly powerful and have reached the pinnacle of their own strength don't join them. They view it as alien and strange. Why stop growing? That's their thought. They see my choices to raise a family and cultivate a household and create something for future generations instead of pursuing personal glory, being very strange. But it doesn't stop them from asking every 4 years. Usually it comes with bribes and promises, and they try to, entice, but...
So this is a bribe.
This is what the gentleman who came in said is an opportunity to have a bit of the best of both worlds. No doubt enticing me to actually go and join them.
What does he actually want from you? Did he actually make a point? I mean, you're putting in a lot of inference here.
No, he explicitly wants me and your father and almost anyone like us who don't really progress any further with our power to leave our families, our homes, the kingdom, everything behind, join them in the mass, and adventure forever. That's what he wants. That's what they all want. They want more people like them.
And what's the problem with that?
I don't want to do it.
Then don't do it.
Well, I wasn't thinking of it, but you asked questions.
It still doesn't explain why we have this now. Nor what you want to do with it. This isn't exactly a stray orphan that I found.
No, it's not. Thank goodness for that. You might traumatize it.
Ha ha.
Aha, indeed. No, this is one more of their asinine attempts to entice our family, devoting resources and personnel.
Did you want this?
No, he just brought it. I didn't ask for it.
There's a piece of this conversation that I'm missing. You're saying this is a bribe that you did not want.
Yes.
To persuade you in something that you've already said no to.
Yes.
So this person just showed up with a present?
They tend to do that. Actually, now that you're on the...
Is this valuable?
Oh, to nobody. Other than them. I mean, nobody would...
Do I plant this? I mean, what...
Well, the way that he's described it is you find a place that you like, you put it in the ground as deep as you can get it, and then feed it. And eventually it will grow into something that will provide you with an endless supply of whatever creatures it can come up with.
try to avoid things like that.
Oh, I know. But it is lucrative, I will give him that. He's very, very enticing. I'm not interested in joining the League by any means, but it's a very interesting proposition. Could you imagine we send our people down to the hinterlands to go and train among the hills? We have to then wait for whatever natural creatures are there to repopulate. But we wouldn't have to do that. We put this little thing in the ground, help it grow, and it turns into something that's essentially an endless supply of resources for us.
Great. I can bury this 5,000 feet deep in the ground for you. Next time I'm passing my way through the hinterlands.
My point was is that I don't have to say yet. But if you want something to be made out of this little town that you wish, then I'd be more than willing to invest in the future of it.
Well, yes. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to pay an architect at the moment who's asking for an absurd amount of money. And most definitively raking me over the coals.
I'm sure he is.
So, is that something that you're interested in participating in? Is it something that... This is quite a large sum of gold.
Well, I think it's important to know what you exactly want this town to be. If you toss away the option that he's brought, fine by me. I don't really care either way. But
I don't understand how the two relate. Do you want me to bind this to the material plane in the hinterlands and plant this next to it? Is that your thought?
That's an idea, yes. Or near the coast or in the mountains, wherever you'd prefer. It doesn't have to be the hint. Point is that you then become an adventuring town.
I like the sound of this a lot. This sounds great to me.
Oh, well, there we go. Solves half the problems we're facing.
Mother.
Yes, darling.
For your years of training in diplomacy and negotiation, you are so ridiculously obtuse sometimes. Just speak plainly. What is it that you want? I literally came here to ask you what you want, and you've answered with nothing but questions back to me.
I looks at you for a sec.
You... me.
I did, yes. And I have questions. It just so happens that you're asking for a large sum of money. I have no problem paying for it. But I want to make sure that whatever venture you're getting in is going to be fruitful for you. It's only fair to ask questions. This just happened to throw a bit of a wrench in the works. Or not, depending on what we do with it.
So the answer is yes, you will pay for the 4 buildings that cost 80,000 gold from this asinine architect who's raking our family over the coals.
Well, just how fast did you ask him to do it?
I gave him 3 months.
You gave him 3 months to complete 4 buildings, and he's charging how much?
80,000 gold.
Quite a bit for 3 months. If you give him 3 weeks, I'd be a little more surprised. I'd be a little less surprised, I should say. But, regardless, you want to build a town. I think that's wonderful. I think it's good to expand and grow. All my questions was what do you plan on doing with it? It's just building a house or a small town. You're going to need people to live there. You're going to need people to work there. You're going to want to attract people to go there. Now, if you want a private estate, then we can have a different conversation about that. But if you want your little town, then we want to make sure that we're spending good money and it's going well. Long term and all that.
I understand. So, let's say I did say 3 weeks. Would that be an agreeable price for you?
Oh, that's
Or
fine.
do you want me to press harder on negotiation?
Oh, no, that's fine. And if I think he's being foolish, I'll just look at him. He'll crumble.
Right.
Besides, I sign his checks regardless.
Have you received any word from Thurgo's people?
Yes, actually, I did manage to procure a teleportation circle. So, it's ready. She looks around through one of her papers, hands you a scroll. See the kind of engraved image of the teleportation circle. As you're ready, I suppose you're free to leave. But that will take you to his one of his islands.
Well, which one?
I
Do you know?
It would be the city of Vulcanos.
Are they expecting our arrival?
I did send word, so they should be expecting you at some point. I wasn't entirely sure when. That was unclear, but I said that they could expect you at some point.
We're trying to get out by week's end at this rate. Have you heard from either of my brothers?
Yes, now about that. Goodness gracious, I'm surprised they didn't tell you. So, they didn't kill the dragon. Turns out the dragon wasn't actually the bad guy in this situation. Weirdly enough.
A chromatic dragon that wasn't the bad guy.
Well, in this particular circumstance, we're not going to talk about, bigger picture. But in this particular one, turns out that the dragon had every right to do what it was doing. So a few of the locals had apparently asked the dragon for some assistance, given it lavish gifts and sacrifices and all manner of things. And in return, they would continuously supply it with these gifts, and it would ensure that lands that they were surrounded were plentiful and protected. It's supposed to be a bit of a guardian, and seemed to be a mutually beneficial arrangement for some time, until they stopped paying.
I see.
At which point the dragon said, well, if you're not going to protect me, or if you're not going to pay me, I'm not going to protect you. He said, oh, well, if that's the case, then bounty. So they put out a bounty on the dragon's head. It got quite upset at that. And word never reached anyone else about the dispute. So your brothers went to investigate, expecting a straightforward dragon hunt. And came away now having to deal with the courts in Korensberg, trying to deal with the ramifications of having a chromatic dragon in the right for once. So they're dealing with that.
A tangled web to weave.
Absolutely. In fact, I think you would all be rather glad that you absolutely would not have loved doing that. You absolutely loved to go. Would have been entirely too convoluted for your liking. You would have had to deal with the courts and possibly even the king. This is always such a drag. Brings you into all the other family nonsense that I know you hate.
Indeed.
Mind you, of course, you could have always just killed the dragon. They decided to go with the noble option, which I'm very proud of them for, but makes it a little more.
It's a chromatic dragon.
Yes, then we'll hunt it down.
It's our birthright to kill them.
I'm very well aware, but I think it might have been a strategic option, because I don't think the two of them could.
What, was it an ancient one?
At the very least an adult. Not entirely sure how powerful. This might have been their smartest move, because if they can then rally other people to go and fight it.
No, of course I trust their judgment. I'm sure they did whatever was most prudent and cautious.
No. I'm sure that was not Valerion's idea.
It was definitely Valserif's
idea.
idea.
It was 100% Valserif, you know it. Are you kidding? Relishing in the opportunity to take a complicated political and racial-based problem to a high court and try and negotiate on behalf of not only an ancient magical beast, but also trying to figure out how
That's
a rival political family conspired? Yes, that's what he lives for. So, either way, I suspect a dragon hunt soon.
Have you told him yet?
Goodness no. He knows. He knows. We'll let him play his game. Besides, he's going to need it. He's always been the best of the three of you when it comes to navigating the courts. Just good at it. Right?
We all have our own skill sets.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If we start a town
Yes.
that is going to be another adventuring town,
Yes.
that is going to be on Indric lands, by the sounds of it, if you want it located in the hinterlands, we will have a stable teleportation glyph there.
Well, that will make it incredibly attractive. Many people.
Mm-hmm. Who would manage the town?
Oh, I'm sure we could come up with a council or a city planner or something to rule in your absence. Goodness knows we have purview over Warbury, but I don't rule it. So we could arrange somebody as a proxy leader for you. Your friends.
Mm-hmm. Alright. All of this sounds agreeable to me.
Excellent. So, would you like it at the hinterlands? Do you want me to keep negotiating for a parcel of land on the coast, or do you want somewhere else?
What is most cost-effective and wise? It's the family money. These are the type of decisions you make.
I have wanted a coastal parcel for a while.
I know that that Thurgle would be partial to the coast, and it sounds like we're going to find a divine ship that we may be able to charter path back to here.
That'd be interesting.
A floating metal ship, blessed by Hephaestus himself.
I'd very much like to see that.
I've
heard rumors of such things.
Hephaestus and Bahamut willing, we will be able to bring it back.
You do find some fun adventure. I'm not going to lie, I do miss it sometimes.
Join the League.
No, I love you too. Who knows, maybe that will be your father and I's retirement.
Is he back?
No, he's overseeing the transportation of several of the magical items. They have to be sent there by ship. Teleportation magic doesn't.
Interesting. Okay.
It's safer that we don't take magical means that can be hijacked, as it were. Somebody managed to figure out how to transmit a message, create a reasonable false image of him, causing all that confusion at the beginning of the year. So best just do it one step at a time. But he's taking care of that, overseeing it, making sure that nobody. So when you're done with this ship business, we may need you for that as well. Hopefully it will all blow over and everything will be great and it will be fantastic and go back to normal, but when does it ever?
I don't know. Trees don't tend to stagnate. I don't find life does the same either.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So, in order for the architect to work on the city, I'm likely going to need to bind it just outside of Warbury for a while.
Very well.
If you do, I would recommend that you talk to him, since he clearly doesn't seem to take me seriously in any capacity, of actually planning a city, and seems to be under the impression that this is some sort of estate.
Understood. I'll have a word with him. It's taken me years to cultivate a relationship with that man. He's very fussy.
Would you like... The mansion is currently bound...
Good.
As long as you like him. The mansion is currently bound to Warbury. If you'd like, you can accompany me to the teleportation circle. I think I figured out how to do a remote binding to allow you to
We can give it a
attune
shot.
to it from here.
We can not. Very interesting how you've managed to do that.
Okay.
But by all means, lead the way.
So I'm going to lead her down to the teleportation circle and activate it to go back and bind her at the same time. You have to explain to me how this works. I've done it before, but I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. Going to bind while teleporting. Okay. Roll an Arcana check as you attempt to activate 2 parts of the magic.
That's a 24.
24? Okay. As you kind of press magical energy into and kind of through the teleportation circle, you feel a very strained but present tenuous connection. As your mother kind of looks at you, this is a very strange box. But seems like I'm attuned somehow. So, shall we?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the mansion in case you've seen it a few times.
Have. Still strange that you managed to pull that off. I'd have to do some studying if you don't mind.
Sure. Do you want to see it? Oh, just a quick tour around before we leave?
Sure.
Okay, so I take her over to my office. I show her a couple of the different things.
Cool. Just kind of have her look around. You can see she's kind of studiously looking and planning. You can see the kind of cogs and gears going in her head. So
I explained to her the cannon sitting at the facing the cage.
She leans over to you. I have a confession to make about the cannon.
What's that?
We made a few.
Do you like them?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just taught a couple more people in this town how to make them.
Really? Well, that was quite okay. Darling,
yes.
we have to be incredibly cautious with this because any of the other families gather word that we're now in the arms making business.
Let's be real. It was only a matter of time.
Oh,
we export people weapons. Eventually it was going to be weapons.
Very true, but always a wise decision to stay out of the public eye.
And I pull out the contracts and hand them to her.
Okay. So he kind of looks over them.
They're learning. They saw me draw some contracts. By the way, this is the one that I have with whatever government entity sits in Garavia, and I'm going to pull out that one.
You know what? I think I'll send one of our people to go and investigate to see if they can follow up on this.
Yes, and I will sign over power of accepting the money to whatever courier you choose.
Very well. I have some ideas.
Yes, it's a pretty big chunk of money.
Might put more in. So, we're going to, meanwhile, Selima, Thurgle, and Liv. What are y'all up to?
We are heading to Blacksmith first. Or at least I am. Whether they come with me or not is up to them.
Okay.
I asked if I belong and you said I could. Am I chopped liver now?
I literally said I'm going to Blacksmith. If you get distracted, that is not up to me.
Okay.
I was going to pull out a dare and test out Zephyr on the mansion grounds using the dummy that we have set up.
Okay.
And absolutely
There's no
not
reason
going
to shoot arrows at Thurgle.
Oh.
And absolutely not cast Ensnaring Strike and bring down my already great day.
Okay.
I'm not as dumb as Centaur.
Sure. Yeah. You spend a fair amount of time just kind of plugging away. It feels more accurate. The arrows feel like they have more of a punch to them. You can see as the arrows impact the dummy, bits of it are just kind of blown off by the now like infused force damage behind everything. It's instead of now just being an arrow hole, it's kind of expands and there's a little bit of blowback on the back of it.
It is hollow tip arrow.
Essentially.
Are the arrows destroyed after this?
No, the arrows are fine. The dummy is starting to look rough after about 2 or 3 solid kind of hits to it. Anything else you'd like to try out? You gonna try out Whirlwind?
I would like to try out Whirlwind.
Yeah.
I am very... I'm hesitant in the sense of I see the range. And I worry about my allies.
Sure. It's just a 10-foot cylinder. So
Okay.
you can do it from 300 feet away, but it just affects a 10-foot area.
Okay, because I saw 300 and then 10 feet, and then I went, oh my god, so it's 300 feet and 10 feet up? What is this?
Oh, that's hilarious. No, not quite.
Thank God. I was absolutely terrified. I looked at that and went, oh my god, I'm killing everyone. I can't use
Okay.
everyone in that little bubble.
I would say if it makes you feel any better, though, the only things there are the constructs right now. So.
Oh no. Okay. So I'm going to assume that you're going to angle away from any things you don't want explicitly damaged.
Yes. The house. Now I'm away from the dummy at this point because I've realized I'm going to have to go fix this dummy with my leatherworking kit.
Okay. So.
I'd have to drag the cage out. It's still inside, isn't it?
I mean, it's in the ground.
Cage is outside next to cannon.
It's not in the house.
It's sitting like in front of the house right now with a cannon pointed at it.
Am I that accurate to not damage the rest of the house?
You'll be fine.
If I aimed at it?
You have plenty of space. Like, you could turn around and like have your back to the house and shoot like another half mile. You got lots of space. This place is huge. Okay. Are you... Thurgle and Liv, are you there to see any of this, or are you headed out like immediately?
I left immediately.
Okay, got it.
Right behind him.
Okay, cool. So, as you become aware of the spell, you feel yourself kind of bring the bow up as you normally would. But sans arrow, and you still pull back on the drawstring as though an arrow is there, and you feel and then see the air coalesce into the space, feeling this long, thin shard of air taking the place of the arrow as you loose it, commanding the spell to fly forward. You see in about a couple 100 feet away from you this whirling, rushing of air. 30 feet high, 10 feet wide, just spinning. You can see little things on the ground like stones and rocks getting sucked up. Just the dummy just gets ripped out of the ground, and it's just spinning around. There are no creatures, so they don't have to worry about that. But it just keeps going and going and going as long as you're concentrating on it. And you're seeing this dummy get battered up. Like, it is... Roll 10d6 for me, please.
$31.
31? Okay. After a few seconds, this dummy is shredded. It is just bludgeoned and battered. The hay just flies around. The tattered kind of burlap that was like its body is just gone. Like the soft padding on the inside. The wood is still mostly intact, but it's just kind of flying around freeform. You kind of think and and kind of move it around. And you notice that as you're kind of thinking about it moving, the whole thing just kind of sweeps to one side. Because as an action, you can move it up to 30 feet in any direction along the ground. As you move it, it leaves this kind of trail of ripped up earth. Not a huge amount, but like enough. Like the grass is torn up, rocks are being pulled in. A couple of them get thrown like 30, 40, 50, 100 feet away, just thrown in different directions. Eventually, are you going to hold the concentration for the full duration, or are you going to let it go?
I was going to hold it for just a little while just to see how tumultuous it ends up getting.
Okay. It's a pretty tumultuous spell. Yeah, it's definitely not an indoor spell if you can avoid it. But it could really wreck a small group of things. As you let it go, the air kind of calms down, and the objects that were being carried just kind of puffs, and there's grass everywhere. There's been like leaves from a couple of trees that have been tossed into the mix. See a little bit of damage on the ground.
My father would be proud.
So that's Whirlwind. You can do that once a day.
Fantastic.
And there you go.
Oh, crap.
And your bow counts as the material component. You don't need a piece of straw for it, don't worry.
That's why I went to the stables.
Fair enough. Your bow counts. That's your focus for the spell.
Fantastic.
Cool. All right. Anything else you're doing while you're here?
I may just kind of relax and meditate a bit. I didn't necessarily want to head into town.
Okay.
Because I didn't feel like I had much business left in the town. Because I had already bought the components yesterday in the shopping episode. Fair
enough. Okay. Sounds good.
So I may start to just meditate for a little bit.
Sit and meditate for a little? Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Okay. Then we will, while you meditate, transition over to Liv and Thurgle and deal with the ramifications of your meditation. Okay, so Liv and Thurgle, you head out to Warbury. Bright and early in the morning. Lovely as ever. You find yourself in the town hall. City's alive and awake. You can smell baked goods. You can hear people calling already from down the streets. But you eventually make your way to the market area, where already there's people there. More so than, a lot of what you saw later in the afternoon. But still pretty early. So, where are you headed first?
Heading to blacksmith.
Blacksmith first. Okay. You head over to the blacksmith. I'm assuming the same one that you went to before.
Correct.
All right.
The one we have agreement with.
Sounds good. Warbury. Delightful. Okay. So, you do head to Haren's very good blacksmithing. I love that. And you see Haren striking away, hammer and anvil, on what looks to be the head of like a hoe. Or like a plowshare, some kind of farm implement.
Good morning, my friend.
He looks at you. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well myself, and you?
I have no complaints. The day is with us, and I have my forge.
It is the best kind of day whatsoever.
Agreed. So, there's something I can help you with?
I was inquiring if you received my note from that I had left last night.
I did, yes. Now remind the GM of the note.
The note was requesting how long it would take to create at least 3 cannons.
At least 3 cannons. Okay. He kind of looks... 3 cannons. A long time. Okay. He looks at you and he says, I did, and I do have to make some modifications to my forge. We've made a few bells here and there, so we have the casts for them. We're gonna have to extend them.
Of course.
That could take some time.
At this moment, Liv tries to step in to be helpful.
Okay.
And she's going to say, based off of this man's personality, she's going to use bardic inspiration to sing a very simple song that is literally like, you are a good blacksmith, you make good product, here is your song, strum, and that's it.
Okay, roll a performance check.
You make good shit. Bling.
Oh no, that's too much. That's too much for this man.
Spoken word. You are a good blacksmith. You make good things.
Yeah, that's going to be at 26.
26? He kind of looks at you. I may have pegged you wrong. That was very good. None of that frilly nonsense. Just simple and straightforward words. A clean and plain message. He looks at you and says, well, might take a couple of days to create the mold. Of course, we're going to have to make some changes, but that's fine. Pouring shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's a lot of metal to melt down. And iron is probably going to be the best for this. So thankfully I don't have to work with steel or anything. Cooling, though. Cooling could take a while. Since I've never tried this before, I'm going to give you best that my experience has taught me. It's going to be at least a week for one. Now, if I make multiple molds and do multiple cannons at the same time, then perhaps I can do more. But it's going to take at least a week to cool it off.
That makes sense.
You don't want it exploding and forming weak points.
Trust me. I know.
He kind of rolls up one of his sleeves. You can see just burns everywhere. Like little flecks of like metal shards. Like you're pretty sure still embedded in his arm. Like from like shrapnel break off and things. You can see like burns and scars all over him. So, I understand. I'm glad you understand too. Is that suitable for your needs?
As of now, yes. Because speaking with the mages themselves, I do feel since you are not requiring magic, you would be essentially the best attuned for creating these items. And this, I will have to say, a little bit of humble brag coming from someone who uses magic to make this is quite something.
Well, I fear that over-reliance on magic can make a crafter lose their touch on the metal. They forget how it actually works.
In some cases, yes, I would have to agree with you, which is why I definitely rely on your expertise. And if you say at least 1 week for one, I would trust you would be able to do at least 3 in the time frame that you feel comfortable with.
I'd say we can probably get that done.
Perfect.
Barring
and
any accidents, of course.
Of course. And when you can, I would appreciate if you could deliver these to essentially anywhere you can get it to the House of Indrik.
Very well. Have that delivered as well.
I appreciate it, sir. And also in that time frame, if you are able to, possibly creating what I have called the grave shot, which is any little small piece of ball bearings, any pieces of broken screws, bolts, or anything that you're not using, to put these in small packages to deliver with him as well.
I'd like to see some schematics for these, but sure we can arrange it as well.
Essentially, it is small bag that fits in barrel to create seal. So whatever specifications you make the barrel size is the size of bag you want to fit inside of there. And just fill it with literally anything.
Makes sense.
A bundle of feathers, is that going to help?
It would take a lot of feathers, but it is possible.
You see he's kind of thinking about it, kind of running numbers in his head. You can see that same kind of calculation you've seen in dozens of other smiths and crafters. Trying to think about all of the implications, all the calculations that need to be done, all the potential things that could go wrong. He's really genuinely thinking about it. Well, I think we can do this. Now, is there anything you'd like to buy?
Do you have any tridents?
Tridents. No, but I have pitchforks.
Pitchfork is like land trident.
Yes, it is. Not much fishing or coastal tools needed here. Don't do many hooks or any of the things that you for that.
Of course not, but it is possible. How much for a land trident?
Land trident. I love that so much. A land trident. Let's find out how much for a land trident. It shouldn't be much. Like, really, it shouldn't be too much. Yeah, it's a gold piece, I'm pretty sure.
Perfect. I will take land trident.
Yeah, we'll call it a gold piece. A farm implement. Kind of looks at you. Very well. Is there anything else I can get you? He looks over at you, Liv. Anything that you require?
Does he have any? I know it would need adjustments, but does he already have any like pre-made armor pieces lying around?
No, he doesn't do any armor.
Then no, there is nothing that I need, and I tell him as such.
All right. Kind of nods his head. Well then. If you don't mind, I'd like to get back to work.
Please do. May Hephaestus bless you.
Thank you. You as well.
And then at this point, I will exit and head towards Alchemist.
Okay, towards the Alchemist. Fantastic. Okay. Welcome to the marketplace. You do pass by the armor, if you'd like to stop by there. Like 15, 20 feet away from the smith that you were just at.
Did you want to stop in, Liv?
I'm not actively looking for anything. I just thought I'd be nice and buy something off the man.
Fair enough. Can you hold my land trident?
Darling, it's a pitchfork.
Same thing.
There's less syllables in pitchfork than there are in land trident.
But it does not help you carry tune. Bing.
Okay. So you head over to the alchemist. You can smell that familiar smell of alchemical ingredients and strange materials. And walking in, that kind of dingy space, filled with all kinds of stuff. And that very familiar kind of older gentleman. As he looks over at you. Ah, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Well, what can I do for you? Bright and
Yes.
early, I see.
Of course, bright and early. Just following up on my inquiry from last night on the possibility of having mass-produced the product I provided you with yesterday.
Kind of looks over at you, Liv. Got a decent enough insight. Get the sense of he's looking between the two of you like, seriously? Sonny, it's been a night. Man has to sleep.
I understand that. I just wanted to know if you were able to do any calculations this morning. I am running on a tight schedule of the death of my country area, so I just wanted to see what would happen.
Oh, death of a country, then that, I suppose, changes things.
He has never been one for patience. I do apologize. But I'm not either, so, I repeat the question. Have you had any calculations?
Well...
But I try to throw it on with, a little, friendly smile and a flick of the hair.
Well, I can probably make a, how much you need? You say mass-produced, you talking small pouches, barrels, kegs? What are you talking about?
Yes.
Well, precise then.
Essentially, how many kegs are you able to produce in, say, 1 week, maybe 2?
Well, it's quite a bit. I could probably make maybe 3 or 4 kegs a week if I have all the materials, but getting the materials might be the hard part.
Makes sense.
They are expensive. I'd be selling these things for at least a couple hundred gold pieces each.
Fair enough. So with that, anything you can produce in a week with affordability that you can compromise, I would appreciate any deliveries to or towards the House of Indrik.
Ah, very well. I'll send it right off to the noble house.
I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Do they have advance warning, or do I need to leave them a note?
It's probably best to leave a note.
Very well, I'll leave a note. Kind of turns around, looks at some of his materials, kind of sighs for a second. Yeah, get it done.
I would not expect any less from a professional as yourself.
Thank you. Now, would you like to purchase anything on your way out?
Anything you were looking for?
No, I'm quite fine. Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate your time, sir. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too. All right. So, heading out, you kind of hear him kind of muttering to himself a little bit. Kind of catch the slightest hint of sass. But doesn't say or do it too offensive. That door closes behind you and you are back out in the world. Going anywhere else?
I'll stop at the stables, see if there's any horses worth purchasing that could potentially be better than Archie, but I find it highly doubtful.
Okay. So going, walking around, asking around a little bit, you finally do make your way to a very large stable, with at least a dozen horses that you can see, kind of on the closer to the gates of the city. but there are horses of all kinds that are there.
As we go in and look for whoever would be in charge, when I do find them, I'm going to do one of the side whispers and be like, "Do you carry ponies?" And I'm going to point at Thurgle.
Okay. So you
My legs are short.
Funny.
I'm doing this. The whole point is that you don't hear me.
Oh.
That's why I was to the side.
You see a kind of a larger kind of half orcish man who's incidentally also got a pitchfork. Am I frozen?
Yes.
I've frozen? That's funny.
He has a land trident!
Ah, he does have a land trident. There we go. Is that better?
Here, would you like to hold yours so you're matching?
Yes, please.
Okay. He kind of looks at both of you. I think we have some ponies. You looking to buy?
This one needs something to ride around on. I wouldn't mind checking out what other beasts of burden you might have. Horses are all fine and dandy, but if you got something fun, I wouldn't mind. So take a look.
Well, we've got all kinds here. It looks... holds out like a very large kind of... little dirty hand. The name's Holland. You a lot of names?
My name is Liv. And I grab his index finger and wiggle it a little bit.
Right. Liv. So.
And this grungy beast is Thurgle. My apologies.
Thurgle. Well,
yes.
Good to meet both of
Thurgle
you.
Nightbane, Cleric of Hephaestus.
That's quite a title, sir. So.
Thank you.
Are you searching for any horse in particular? You just need something fast, something strong, or...
Preferably a horse with no name.
Needs speed and durability, especially for this one. He might be small, but he's quite heavy.
Speed and durability.
I get it from my mother.
Okay. So. Well, we have our most durable horses here. It kind of leads you over to kind of a large, stocky horse. Very tall, very broad. These ones are usually ridden by soldiers, but they'll do the job for pretty much anywhere. Very reliable. They are our best horses, though. But durable, fast. They'll get the job done.
You're gonna have to conjure up some stilts to reach the stirrups.
Yes, this might be a little out of my reach in particular.
It could be tall for you, but be ideal for the lady.
For sure.
Are there any horses that in this area that he just showed that are like a pitch black color from head to toe?
Yeah, there's a couple.
I'm going to go around and put my hand on the face of each one and just see what the horse's reactions are to decide if they're the right one. And I'm looking for one that's yes, you are. I like you. I nuzzle you, and I like you. I want to be your horse.
Okay. You find, looking for just absolutely pitch black horses, you find two. One is kind of a similar stocky build. One is a lot lean. It looks fast, for sure. Doesn't look frail or weak or emaciated by any means, but it looks like it's definitely built for speed, not quite for the same heft that the other one has.
And what happens when I put my hand to each of their faces?
Roll an animal handling check for the big ol' horsey, stocky horse.
Is it animal handling?
Animal handling.
All right, that's gonna be a 13 on that one.
13? Okay. Yeah. It responds to your touch. Maybe nuzzles a little bit. It seems to dig around for what might be food of some kind.
All right, and then the other horse.
Another animal handling.
A 10.
A 10? Okay. This was definitely a little jumpier. A little more skittish. A little more itchy. It seems to have a little more energy than the other one. The other one was a little more subdued and disciplined. But it also kind of nuzzles at you and kind of does that same kind of looking around. But it definitely seems your grasp of this horse is a little more kind of high energy.
And based off of that, because I didn't get exactly what I was looking for, but I can sense that this one has a similar energy to myself.
Okay.
I'm going to say that I will buy this horse.
Okay. All right. So that is a pitch black riding horse. That is 75 gold pieces.
All right. And I'm going to take this horse and I'm going to call it Vala.
Vala. Very cool.
And I will pay the man his gold.
Do you want to saddle with that? Or are you riding a bareback?
I'm gonna ride bareback. Why not?
Okay. Sounds good.
Like, fuck.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay.
And then I ask again about ponies for that one.
Yep, there are a couple of ponies. Couple of varieties of colors. Do you have any that you're looking for in particular?
Just one that does appreciate my presence and does not freak out with my smell.
Okay. Go ahead and roll an animal handling just to see what happens.
14.
14. Okay. You go around, you kind of, interact with and feel a couple of different ones. You find one in particular that responds fairly well is a... All right. Kind of a dapple gray kind of horse. It's got this lovely kind of sheen to it. It's not like a dark, deep, like rich gray. It's kind of a little lighter. But it's got a nice little sheen to it. If you'd like it.
I think this one is quite acceptable. How much would you take for this?
That'll be 50 gold pieces for that one.
And for the saddle for comfortability?
It's just a standard saddle. Is going to be 10 gold.
So altogether 60?
60.
Question to the DM.
Yeah.
This horse that I just got, would it be considered a draft horse or a riding horse so I can put the right one in my notes?
Yours would be a riding horse, and Thurgold's would count as a... I'm going to count yours as a... Oh. There's an actual pony. So it's 30 gold.
Even be funny.
It's 30 gold, not 50 gold. So 40 total. And it will just be a pony.
Perfect. I will name him Hades.
Perfect. You're going to have the entire Pantheon riding around with you.
I'm trying.
Okay. Yeah, but exchange goes without any issues. You get your horses. As you kind of lead them away, they kind of dig around in like your packs and your clothes looking for like any kind of thing to eat.
Gonna take them directly back to the mansion and the stables in there and feed them up. Or at least that's my
sure.
I don't
Yeah.
know what
Who's carrying the mansion right now?
As far as I know, it was left back in the...
The agreement was that it was left back in the room.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to be sure.
I don't know what you guys did. Just that's the last thing we agreed
You
to.
mentioned that, that it was left in the room. So I'm glad someone was on top of that. Thank you for the reminder.
After acquiring Hades, essentially I'm heading back to the tavern.
Okay. Yeah, you guys can lead your horses around without any issues. And I mean, you'd probably want to get the mansion out so that you could put the horses into it and then put it back in the building. You figure out the logistics of it. I don't think you want to lead horses right through the town hall.
Thurgo wouldn't give a shit,
up
but
up the stairs into like the plush bedroom. I don't think anyone would like that.
Management would be like, "Where the fuck did they go? Not our problem."
What did you do to the horses that went up the stairs? Okay, so all in all, I'd say that by this time you guys can definitely coordinate your times enough to reconvene as Selima is picking up the pieces of her wanton destruction. Valerica.
I'm going to make a comment and be like, "Oh, that was like a fucking tornado came through here. What the hell happened, Selima?"
Very astute. Yes. Exactly what happened.
Ah.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Like some help cleaning this up.
I feel like it's my punishment for killing the dummy. I'm okay.
Alright, whatever you say. And as I finish taking the horse to the stable to get it fed up, if I run across a construct, I'm going to order it to go help her. But that's only if I pass one.
Oh, yeah, you can run it one. Sure. That's fine. There's a couple just floating around, not doing anything in particular.
I tell them to go help her clean up the mess.
Okay, fantastic.
So, look, I have gotten a land trident. Liv was saying that herself, but it is land trident.
Long as the name didn't cost extra, perfect.
Thank you. I'm quite proud. I'm pretty sure we might be able to use this here somehow. I don't know how, but somehow.
Right. Land Trident. Fantastic.
When I get Vola fed up and watered, if not everyone is back yet, I'm going to take a moment to practice riding her since I don't have a saddle. I want to make sure that I can, like...
Actually get used to it?
Yeah.
Alright, let's go ahead and make a couple of animal handling checks just to see how well this goes.
20 total.
20 total, okay. First kind of few minutes are going well, kind of adjust a little bit and try to get comfortable with the idea of not having a saddle, you know, but you got your bit and bridle, so you're able to kind of ride around. It's going pretty well. So
did she forget to buy saddles?
She just didn't buy a saddle.
Not to.
Okay, so second round. So you started off with a walk. Let's try a trot.
22.
Okay. Kind of speeding up the horse a little bit. You get kind of into it. A little uncomfortable, but you're getting used to this. You know, horses handling just fine. Seems to be doing all right. Let's get it up to a canter. Look at me throwing out horse terminology.
It's going to be an 11 at that one.
An 11? Okay. You're getting the sense of what it's like to ride a horse with no ability to hold on to it particularly well, other than the thing that's around its mouth. It kind of bucks a couple of times. I'm going to need you to make a dexterity saving throw as you speed up, and it just kind of thrashes around, and you're trying to hold on to this thing.
21.
21, okay. You feel yourself sliding off on one end, and you manage to just kind of latch your legs on really hard and kind of grip onto the horse and manage to kind of right yourself just a little bit. And it's still super uncomfortable. But if you're feeling confident, you can try and speed it up.
All right. Oh, rough. 9.
9? Okay. So, feeling confident, you attempt to speed the horse up into a full gallop. Make another dexterity saving throw as you completely lose grip of the horse.
21.
21, okay. So you'll take 5 points of bludgeoning damage as you hit the ground. Just the wind knocked out of your lungs. You just kind of lie there for a second like, what just happened? The horse just kind of keeps running away. It'll take you a sec to catch up, but eventually you'll get back into it. Might need some practice, but you got it walking and kind of cantering around a little bit, so.
Figured it'd be better to find that stuff out now than on the journey itself.
Yeah. So, as you're doing that, Thurgle, as you retire, as you're still having your conversation with your mother, Valerica, Selima, you finish cleaning up. You very amusedly watch Liv fall off a horse. And you settle into your meditation. Settling in, enjoying the mostly quiet of the space around you. Rock. As you kind of drift into that space, almost like the trance that you fall into when you rest, you find the flashes and memories that were brought to the surface by the Lord of Eyes bubbling in. You feel the loss of those who are no longer here. But it feels almost did somehow. There's a beauty to the end of things. It's natural life. It might be painful, but and you've long since come to terms with all of it. You still keep their names stitched. You record and remember every that you attempt to find justice for. But you come to terms with this memory, this poisoned by the words of the Lord of Eyes, the promise of a return to earth isn't fit with the natural or divine order. Warped twisting of what makes this world and the world what they are. Whatever that creature was, whatever it was offering, it isn't meant. And for the longest time, that feeling of those memories being corrupted, disturbs, nauseates. You feel physical revolt. And then your mind centered for the world that have for so long guided your actions. Why for the longest time you've hidden things aren't of the world. Why you've protected. How what happened to you all over. It's simply unfair. And how you've, throughout the years of your life, you've dedicated to alleviate the loss of others. Remember that nobody was there to advocate for you. But you've tried to be there to advocate those who. As you sit on these, hear a heavy smacking sound resonate. Sounds like sound of wooden training swords impacting. The sound of blunted arrows hitting training. It sounds like decisions being seen. You feel in this moment an unusual but familiar presence. One that you've felt scant times before. Subtler then, but more obvious now. You remember a time when this presence was one order, structure, rigidity. Finding calm. You feel touch your shoulder. As you look to it, your mind's eye, you see draped heavy hood securing the soft features of a human. Large drape covering her. You look into your memory. See her wave a hand, and that taint, that corruption from the Lord of Eyes. And she looks down at you. You cannot see her eye, Phillips. You see a very soft, very gentle half smile. Almost one given in secret. One that isn't meant to be shown. One that isn't seen. One that's just for you. See her reach and gently touch her where all of the names stitched. See them and slowly stitch themselves out in space. You hear this figure speak often. Each one you bring peace. You bring is this to be your
It's been.
then this is judgment. I speak. You done. Feel the presence as your mind clears what you know to whatever manifestation, Araxe, the divine advocate, present to the world around you. See Liv still off in the distance, riding her horse, ceaselessly attempting to rein it in and master it. You think back to your friends or in the mansion, knowing that the path is clear. Feel just bristling fingertips. The influx of new and divine potency. O ye cleric of the divine advocate. And that is where we're going to end the session. We're going to pick up next time. Hopefully get you guys off to Mistros finally.
Multi-classing.
Another cleric. Another cleric.
Well, then I'm just gonna sit over here as the only pure person, okay?
Or you could be a cleric too. Cleric, do you want to take levels in cleric?
No, I'm not going cleric.
Cleric party.
No, I'm quite content with my build, thank you.
All right.
Have you heard of the benefits of Hephaestus?
Oh my god.
I would say,
I like
if
how-
I ever do multi-class, it'll be barbarian. It is the only one that fits her personality.
That's totally fair.
I like how today started with, wow, your god's so cool. Thanks, other god.
Thanks for making my bow. I'm gonna look this way at my god.
Thanks.
It's really funny how it kind of bookended, right?
That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Can we just say that I relayed the message to Thurgle so he at least knows?
Sure. Yeah.
I would say you probably could have sent it to me via sending stone, or when you get back to the mansion or whatever.
Yeah. I'm just
That's
trying
it.
to not have us constantly be doing hardcore RP in like mundane.
Mundane things. Sure. Makes sense.
Out of curiosity, I still have the stitching, or
Oh,
did
yeah.
that actually physically leave? Okay,
Oh, no, it's still
that'd be the only anxiety that Slima would have because
Oh yeah, she looks. It's still there.
Okay, thank you. That'd be the only anxiety. She'd probably be like,
Actually, real quick, make a perception check.
"Oh dear." That is 21.
21. Okay. You, because they're things that you've made, you would know. They are much smaller, and you have a lot more room. You have more room for more names.
No, don't know whether that's wonderful or disheartening, but that's exactly.
Hey, you'll find out.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we will pick it up next time. Thank you very much, guys. See you later.